Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
Third of the people are going to love you no matter what you do, a third of the people are going to hate you no matter what you do, and a third of the people are going to be like, yeah. So, if you know your audience, then you can craft your material to that particular audience.
Welcome to the Comedians in Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Michael Harris. Michael, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello. My name is Michael Harris. I'm an actor filmmaker from Northern Indiana. Live in a little small lake resort community where I grew up, and currently working on a project called Simon Sees, which is a Sixth Sense sort of psychological thriller. So working on that and a couple other projects, and do a lot of volunteer work on top of that.
Very cool. Very cool. So it's a psychological thriller. Are you working in the dream space with the story?
In the dream space, no.
Okay.
Well, visions.
Okay.
The boy sees visions about what happened to his mother, and goes on a quest to find her, and ends up finding an illegal organ farm instead.
Ah, delicious. I love liver and onions. So, are you ready to get started, Michael?
Absolutely.
Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comment section. You say things like, I didn't know I didn't subscribe. And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build. And we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me. All right, so the whole point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So Michael, would you agree that you start as a comic and evolve into a comedian?
I think some people have a kind of a comic personality. I guess when I'm talking about actors, I distinguish between actors and personalities, which in my mind would be the same sort of thing, where one appears as themselves every time, and another ends up creating characters along the way. So I think you probably start on the spectrum any place you that might suit your personality.
Okay, so you're saying that the actor who's a personality starts as the personality or starts as the actor and ends as the personality?
Well, I think that a personality is somebody who comes across as themselves in everything that they do, whereas the actor is more concrete in terms of constructing different personalities every time. So, in terms of the comic and the comedian, one would be funny innately, maybe, and the other would construct funny things to share with other people. So it'd be more of a character development kind of thing with the person who is more joke oriented, I would imagine.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that one. So how about the first question? So
Sure.
it's about the role of persona in comedy. So how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
Yeah, I guess in some respects, I would say that, like in film, um, or even theater, reality is amplified in order to tell a compelling story. So I think that any good comedian is going to base their material and life experience, but obviously sometimes you have to make it bigger than life, or at least tell it bigger than life in order for it to be funny.
So does authenticity matter or is illusion part of the magic?
Well, I think authenticity matters to the degree that at least the person has to be authentic in their commitment to the material. You can't tell somebody else's material and do it well, I don't think.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Now, obviously, there's universal jokes, right? We got those dad jokes, which at best are told mediocre. So
Yeah.
I guess that would be part of the illusion. Okay, punching up versus punching down. So where do comics versus comedians stand on this? And let me put it in some historical context. Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's a tough one. Um, I guess I need you to define a little bit more what you consider punching up and punching down.
So this is the biggest dichotomy, right? So first, if this event even occurred, a lot of people said it was an episode of Game of Thrones, but I haven't seen it. And how what is the commitment to if you're a prince, technically you outrank the jester, right? So that would be punching down, wouldn't it?
Sure. Yeah.
So right. So I mean that's basically the idea is if, just to kind of broaden the spectrum of the origins of comedy, at least in the dark sense that we seem to experience. So is the audience's agreement with the comedian a form of permission or alignment?
Probably.
Okay, I would hope so. All right,
Yeah.
so how about Colt?
What's going through
Uh,
my mind when you ask that question is, I guess from the musical Pippin. So would you know Pippin Pippin would be punching up to take over Charlemagne's role, right? Charlemagne would be punching down for Pippin.
yeah, I mean, absolutely, and we could see that in a lot of stories. So yeah, I mean, you can overlay it even when it's not necessarily the case, but we got to make a joke out of that. So where would the funny be in that situation?
Well, in terms again of the play, to me, it's a funny situation, funny, ironic in the sense that when Pippin takes over Charlemagne's role, he finds out, he discovers that it's not what he thought it was going to be, so he reverses, and I think in some ways the comedy of life is much more funny than what we can tell in terms of jokes. So just he, he's totally surprised by the experience not turning out the way he wanted it to turn out. So
Right. So the joke's on him, right? So we're really laughing at him at best. Would you
yes,
agree? All
yep,
right.
for sure.
All right. Cultural translation of comedy. So how do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
Yeah, yeah, I think they're too specific to the one culture. I mean, I think that like Jerry Lewis, who is kind of my idol, is the one that seemed to translate very well, particularly into French culture, and really had a huge following in that particular culture because his shtick was more universal, I think, than what some people portray. Whereas if you're specifically doing comedy around a specific, say, U.S. president, or even more specifically a specific ethnic group in the United States that maybe doesn't translate that well into another culture. I think it just has to be something that gets to the core values of a human soul and overrides a specific culture or a specific location in order to translate worldwide or globally.
Right. So then are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
Not necessarily. I guess it depends on the comic. It just you have to. I don't know. I mean, I think of Lucille Ball, or I think of Carol Burnett, and they both translate pretty well. I would think worldwide.
So would you say that they're more comics or comedians?
Well, so they don't really tell jokes. I guess like the joke is again is the situational comedy. So yeah.
That one's a tough one. Yeah, I would argue Lucille Ball is definitely a character, but it's almost constructed. And
Yeah.
so I would lean more towards comic in that sense. So
Yeah.
that's how I would see it. So how about crowd work versus crafted work? So if comics riff like influencers in the comments section and comedians perform like in reaction videos, where's the sweet spot?
If one more time.
It's a complex question. So
Yeah.
if comics riff like influencers in the comments section and comedians perform like in reaction videos, where's the sweet spot of crowd work versus crafted work?
Yeah. Um, well, I think you have to craft the word to hit the crowd. So I think you almost have to identify your audience. And I think that's probably where the sweet spot would lie, would be in identifying audience. What's going to
Yeah.
work for your particular audience? Because, had an acting coach tell me, he said, third of the people are going to love you no matter what you do, a third of the people are going to hate you no matter what you do, and a third of the people are going to be like, yeah. So, if you know your audience, then you can craft your material to that particular audience.
Yeah, that's good. So then at least best you can get 2/3 of them, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So what happens when a comic leans too much into crowd work or when a comedian gets heckled?
Well, when you lean too much into crowd work, I think that you may lose sight of that authenticity. You
Hmm.
know, um, when a comedian gets heckled, guess it depends on how they respond, but obviously if you get caught up again in that moment and aren't able to think on your feet. I mean, I think that the thing that makes a good comic is they're able to think on their feet and adjust their material as they go. But if they can't adjust their material and get caught up in the audience reaction either way, then they lose the objective of their performance.
Right, because the comedian becomes the crowd and the heckler is doing the crowd work, right?
Exactly.
Okay, very important question. Advertising and self-promotion. Who advertises themselves more? The comic, the comedian, or the magician? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast and get the message out today. See you soon.
Wow. Who advertises themselves more? Comic, comedian, or the music?
Magician.
Um, the comic.
Okay. Is that, or is there a reason or you just throwing one out there?
I guess I'm thinking of like late night stand up folk.
Okay. Yeah, that's the best kind of advertising you can get in a late night show if you're doing comedy,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
So
yeah.
that's what led to the answer is that thought.
Okay. So is self-promotion seen as selling out or is it necessary for survival?
Well, you know, even though it's entertainment, it's also a business. So I guess if you don't advertise, you're going to die. But
Hmm.
again, the best would be those that could combine the two kind of seamlessly so that it's not as obvious. I think, nobody wants to hear somebody, selling a car,
All right.
no matter what form the car comes in, right?
Right. Yeah. All right, censorship and offense. So does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point, like a magician?
No publicity is bad publicity, right? Um, yeah, again, I think there's a fine line there, but not sure I could say one courted it more than the other.
Okay. So who survives better in a cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician, or the mudslinger?
Muslim. Yeah.
Is that
Um,
your final answer?
who survives more in a cancer culture, huh? Um, yeah, I mean, guess the critic always survives, right?
But what a life it is.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll go with that in that reverse order, right?
Right.
All right. Timing and delivery, science or art. So do comics rely more on structure and comedians more on rhythm and emotion?
Um, comics. Yeah, well, even the structure has to flow, though. Even the structure has to have timing, right? Because
It should.
if the structure doesn't have timing, then but I think probably the joke teller is going to be the one that really has to get the timing right. You know, the rhythm and the flow of how you tell a joke has to flow. But you know, I mean, again, you get into a comic skit, that's got to flow as well. You know, it's any form of entertainment is going to have its rhythm to it, or it's not gonna fly.
Right. It's just going to wither and die on the vine. Okay.
Wither and
Laughter versus,
die.
right?
All right.
Laughter versus applause. So are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing applause breaks or a prime time Emmy that validate the message?
Some. Yeah, some are definitely chasing the thing. You know, I guess good work speaks for itself. So depends on the person, but I would say probably more the comics are probably going to be more the chasers.
Okay. All right. So comedy as commentary. So when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
A lot of those, you know, and I think you can do that well. I think those who do it well, the distinction, the line is blurred, so we don't always see it. But I definitely think that most artists have some sort of perspective that they want to share with the world. But I think when it becomes obvious, it's kind of like when a camera move becomes obvious in a film. That's when the line gets blurred and you start thinking about that aspect of it. Otherwise, it becomes subliminal and it can have its influence without being obvious or intrusive.
Okay. So is that good or does it dilute the humor?
Well, I think it's good for us to share perspective. I mean, you know, any work that I do personally, I want to say something beyond the pure entertainment values. So I guess there's a little bit of the preacher under the entertainer, you know, trying to come out. But when that preaching becomes too obvious or too overt, then's when it crosses the line into something um, beyond sharing life perspective, I guess.
Okay. So, are you ready to enter the multiverse, Michael?
Oh my goodness, the multiverse. I thought I was already in it.
Oh no, you're just in a space elevator. Now you have to get ready to enter the multiverse.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Hang on, I
Board
got to
game.
buckle my
Yeah,
seatbelt here.
that won't help. It's you've seen Inception, right?
Yeah.
So, board game Zoomcast, play versus performance. So, if comedy were a board game Zoomcast, are you competing as the colorist, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
Be a little of both.
Little both. So, it's a board game. You got to choose your player.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Well, what a multiverse where you can't be multiple things. That's strange.
yeah, I know, right? Uh, I don't know. My character. You want me to choose a character, huh? Board game.
Well, I mean, if you're playing a board game in in the multiverse, it's probably a good idea to have a totem so you don't get lost.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jerry again. Jerry Lewis, my character.
Jerry Lewis is your character?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jerry Lewis, so he would probably be the Foley artist, I would go with, I would guess.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm kind of reaching with that one. I don't have enough to build off of, but this will definitely answer the question. Does comedy work better when it's painted vividly or when it's orchestrated sonically?
Both.
Oh, well, I guess we're not going to make it out of the multiverse. So, okay, we'll go with that.
I'm sorry, but
That's all right.
I mean, it just depends on the comedian. I can think of you know, characters that are very out there and those that are more subtle.
All right, go with that. So, here on the Comedians and Elevators podcast, we have a tradition where the previous guest asks a question for the next guest. And
Uh,
the previous guest was Matthew Glover. And his question for you, Michael, is in 1,000 years, how will we experience comedy?
1,000 years. How will we experience comedy? Um, I think we'll experience comedy by how our society evolves in 1,000 years. We'll probably be so frustrated with how things evolve that we'll probably either find everything comic or everything tragic.
Okay. Yeah, well, who knows, right? 1,000 years, that's too far. It should have been 100, but that's his question. All right. So, last question, legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics Tight Five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
I'm going to say point of view.
Okay, so going with the comedian. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn at Michael Harris Actor. You can find me on Instagram at Sastun Media, Sastun Media. And yeah, those would be the best two places.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being my guest. And for everyone, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
Do, do, do.